Okay, good morning, everybody. We'll call the meeting of Tuesday, December 16th to order. And our first item is to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Our next item is citizens to be heard, and I know we have a citizen who wants to be heard today. Good morning, Carolyn.
Trying to get Terry to come up here with me, but she won't.
You don't have to be bashful.
I know. I'm Carolyn Sternrad, and I'm the current chair for the Children's Local Advisory Council for Children's Mental Health. And I am just here today because the LAC would like to recognize John for his work with our council and in helping us with kids with mental health. So I have a certificate as well as a little gift. This is the golden starfish, and I don't know if you guys know the story of the starfish, but I'll just read it to you real quick. While walking along a beach, an elderly gentleman, that doesn't mean you, John, saw someone in the distance leaning down, picking something up and throwing it into the ocean. As he got closer, he noticed that the figure was that of a young man picking up starfish one by one and tossing each one gently back into the water. The old man smiled and said, "I must ask, why are you throwing starfish into the ocean?" To this, the young man replied, "The sun is up and the tide is going out. If I don't throw them in, they'll die." Upon hearing this, the elderly observer commented, "But young man, do you not realize that there are miles and miles of beach and there are starfish all along every mile? You can't possibly make a difference." The young man listened politely. Then he bent down, picked up another starfish, threw it back into the ocean, past the breaking waves, and said, "I made a difference for that one." And John, you have made a difference for a lot of children and families in our community. I don't remember the exact date, but I remember clearly a meeting that I went to. It was during the construction, and you guys met over at the Family Service Center, and you were struggling with budget cuts and how we were going to continue to serve families, and I was there, and you invited me to the table. And I was very proud to join you, and I appreciated that motion to include families in what was a very difficult discussion at the time. So on behalf of the LAC, we would like to present you with this certificate of appreciation. The certificate is awarded to John Everett, Clay County Commissioner, in recognition of your commitment to assist the local advisory council for children's mental health in achieving their mission to promote an accessible, comprehensive, and unified mental health delivery system within Clay County, and for your unwavering support, compassion, and understanding of the needs of children and families in Clay County. We'll miss you, John. It will be, I've been at this table for about 17 years, and it's really different to not have you there, but we wish you the best in your next phase.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Carolyn, very nice of you. Thank you. Something tells me that probably won't be the last we'll be seeing of John getting plaques. All right. Okay, we'll move on. Do we have any other citizens to be heard this morning? Any other citizens to be heard? Okay. Excuse my cough here. Okay, our next item then is to approve the bills and vouchers.
Hello. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. And we have before us in the packets today the approval or the minutes from December 2nd and December 10th.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We will move on to our 8:35 item, and we're going to get an update from the Greater Fargo-Moorhead Economic Development Corporation and on its fourth quarter. Good morning, Jim. You didn't bring Mark with you, though.
Well, Mark is on his way back from California, so
Okay,
I guess
so we
he's,
get to see.
this is John Mahatchik.
Well, we're glad to have John.
John has been with us for several years, but he's taking on a new set of responsibilities, really now, but officially January the 1st, he'll be our new Senior Vice President of Finance and Entrepreneurial Development. John has been assisting me in a lot of the entrepreneurial stuff, and I'm going to be stepping back, and John will take more of a role in that area and also in the finance area. So we're thrilled that he continues to be a big part of what we're doing and how we're proceeding through our process. So I just thought it would be a great opportunity for him to come. If you haven't met him, he's been a great asset for us and our community for quite some time. So
Well, I know Grant and I get the opportunity to listen to his reports and all of it, the work that all of your staff do at the meeting, so. There's one coming up too.
Yes, right, our annual, that's actually tomorrow,
yeah.
late afternoon. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about at our board meeting tomorrow. We are going to be presenting our new strategic plan for Cass and Clay County that we've been working on in 2014. Fourth Economy from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who performed the study and has worked with us over the last year, will be here to present the study and all the process that goes along with it. We're kind of at a transition point right now from an organizational standpoint. We're finishing the study and looking forward to 2015 and on. We also this year finished the Valley Prosperity Partnership study that was done. And as we have gone through our process this year, and in the packet that you received, there was an activity report up through the end of November. We had performed 175 business development calls in Cass and Clay County. Probably the largest that's ever been done by our organization, and we're continuing to grow that because it's the foundation of what we do. We want good information from our businesses. And one of the things that they've told us time and time again is the continuing issue of workforce issues, not having enough either highly skilled or highly trained people to help sustain the growth that we're experiencing on both sides of the river. So one of the things as we were talking through that and talking to people at the chamber and then ultimately with a number of other organizations, we realized that everybody's hearing the same thing. And we feel the best way to accomplish something is by doing it collaboratively and working with other partners to accomplish the end goal. So in that process, we've partnered with the Chamber of Commerce, the Fargo-Moorhead, West Fargo Chamber, and with United Way, with the FM Area Foundation and the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So 5 very kind of different, unique organizations, but all saying the same thing, that we need, strong jobs, we need a workforce that's strong, and we need jobs that are living wage jobs to be able to survive in this marketplace. That's why United Way and the FM Area Foundation are a part of this, is because they feel that the stronger and the higher wage jobs that are available, the less social service requirements that will be needed within the marketplace. So they've stepped up and said that it's important to them. So we initiated on November the 1st a comprehensive workforce study for Cass and Clay County, which has never been done before in this region. Actually, there's never been one done in the state of North Dakota. There has been one in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. So this will be a 6-month process that come May, we'll have hopefully some answers to our questions, and maybe we'll even understand some of the questions, because right now I'm not sure we really have all those things in line. So we'll be helping to facilitate that. So between those 3 key research studies and processes, I think we're going to be going into the rest of 2015 hopefully having some further direction and focus in what we're doing. But we'll continue to maintain the the business development calls, and so we understand what's going on within our businesses and what's happening. We will continue to work on entrepreneurial development because we think that's a key component of our future. And we are going to become more active in regards to attraction, which over the last couple of years, because of our unemployment rates, we've kind of been hesitant about that. But we've identified through the strategic plan some areas that we feel we have the ability to go out and try to get some traction on. One of them is in the distribution area. It has high value, so it creates real estate tax dollars, but it doesn't require a tremendous amount of full-time equivalents or individuals to run those facilities. We're very focused on the Minnesota side in Clay County on not only those programs or that industry sector and distribution, but we're really focused on a particular area for data centers, because data centers have they need to be high and dry, and that's one of the things that Minnesota and this region has over here that, you know, to be very candid with you, the North Dakota side does not have. And so we're partnering with a major developer in the Minnesota area to try to, you know, create some focus for that in the Clay County area, because we think that's a great opportunity. It has a high dollar volume, so it creates, you know, excellent real estate tax revenue, but it really does not require tremendous amounts of people to run data centers. But it also, those people that are there are very high paid and would be very positive to have in the marketplace. So we feel that we've had a very strong year. We've got a lot of projects working even now. And I think as we move into 2015 and beyond, we have some great direction set that we're focused on. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions. But really, we're here just to give you our kind of biannual update as to where we are. And again, thank you for your continued support.
Questions?
I'd like to say this is very thorough and makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
John?
I've been intrigued by some of the news about the Valley Prosperity Group. You're working closely with that group, I presume.
Yes, sir. The Valley Prosperity Partnership was started probably about 18 months ago with a conversation between Bill Marcel Sr., myself, and Klaus Thiessen, who is my counterpart in Grand Forks. Klaus and I have been kind of connecting and collaborating for, you know, the 3 years that I've been here. And from that, Bill Marcel has a passion for the Valley and you know, what's going on here and how we're moving forward. So he thought that he'd like to create a partnership from a business standpoint as to how we could, you know, help facilitate those changes and what needs to happen. And I don't want to say it's in response to what's going on in the Bakken, but I think that some of that has to do with, you know, we as a region have always been a very powerful, you know, region on both sides of the river, and I think that we want to continue that process. So 22 business people up and down the valley and university partners came together, and it is a pay-to-play kind of organization. They all contributed $20,000 apiece to have the study performed, and it's come up with 6 key items that they're focused on, and it has to be something that's really focused on the valley. So it can't be just for one section or another. It has to be something that's it's a quality process for the entire valley, and they will look at opportunities to speak out on topics both in the North Dakota and Minnesota side, legislative-wise and everything else, and from a business standpoint, you know, how they perceive, you know, the market and what they would like to see happen. So it's been a very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a good move to be looking at the broader region. I think
Right.
that's helpful.
Yeah, because it does have a tremendous amount to offer, and between the educational components, the higher education, the 2-year between NDSCS and M-State and Northern and up in the Grand Forks area on the Minnesota side. There is a strong higher education component within this community that needs to be a part of our growth. It is a part of our growth, and so how we help facilitate that and those things that can benefit them as benefit the community as well. So those are some of the key important parts that we're working on.
Very good, thank you.
I know, Jim, I don't know if you've been contacted yet, but I hope you have, but in our intergovernmental retreat that we're having in January, we have a couple of panels set up, and one of them, we were looking at having some young professionals, and we were looking for maybe getting some folks out of the chamber. Mm-hmm. And what we're interested in, because our local group, it's Clay County, and it's the city of Moorhead, and it's our school districts, and it's our colleges, and it's a few surrounding townships. And one of the things that we've been talking about and we're interested in is what can we do to keep our young professionals who are graduating from our colleges here, keep them, just get them to stay here. What new things, new ideas can we come up with that can help with that? And so we're looking to some of those young ones, and I believe you were going to be invited to be on that panel. I don't know if you've heard about that or not.
Superintendent Kovash has contacted me and said she wanted a Valley Prosperity Partnership and a workforce person. Mm-hmm. And so we told her I would participate, and Tiffany would participate from a workforce standpoint if that was a benefit. So we're willing to. And John would be, I think, another positive because of all his work in the entrepreneurial community.
And that's where we were kind of, Lynn was kind of supposed to lean on you to help get the right people at the table to, to have this discussion. And it is a panel discussion to talk about it. And because we as government entities also need to know what part can we play in helping the business community in retaining our educated kids that are coming out of here, whether it's a 2-year or 4-year.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think there's more and more encouragement going on now for even encouraging a lot of 2-year.
We think that there's great opportunity not only in 4 years, incredible, no question about it, but certification programs, 2-year programs are offering wonderful long-term opportunities, and we try to sell the process that it's a stepping stone if they want to. It's not the end. If they get a certification, they can then go on, if everything's tied in, and go to the 2-year program, and if they want to, they can move to a 4-year, depending on, what they're doing and where they are in their development. We think that it's very exciting that M-State and NDSCS is being brought into the Tri-College program. So all those credits are going to be able to be transferable and be able to be a part of that whole thing. I think that's going to be a powerful, tool for this region as time goes on.
And then one last thing that I want to comment on. I know after the death of Mayor Wallaker in Fargo, the new acting mayor, Mahoney had, I heard him make a comment in the media that Fargo is no longer just a big city, it's become a regional center. Well, that also includes, I believe, Moorhead as part of that.
Sure.
And along with that, I think he's right that it does give us an awful lot of more opportunities, as well as there are some, he did mention some of the downsides, and that's, of course, more people needing assistance and those types of things that come with it too. But this is exciting to see a lot of the stuff happen with Valley Prosperity Partnership. The work that you guys are doing. That last report, when I was at that last meeting, was fabulous. I just thought it was a lot of really good things happening.
Yeah.
So.
We're very aggressive in our projects and initiatives, and the things that we do, we look at quarterly, and if they're not working, we'll try to purpose them, but if they're not, after this next quarter, they're gone. We think that we have to be proactive, and a lot of those are in that youth area and other educational things that we're working on that you don't see immediate response, but in the end, we're hoping that it has, long-term benefits.
Yeah.
I continue to be very impressed with the growth of the metropolitan area, and The only problem I have with it is that it's gobbling up so much farmland. Is there any emphasis to try to build upward rather than outward?
Yeah, actually, there's a very strong component of that, and that's exactly what they're talking about. We're using too much green space when we have all of the, we call it kind of gap development, where you're jumping green space to get to another green space to do something because of, somebody bought that property right. We have too many things downtown. Our size of our downtown, I think that when Doug Burgum did a talk recently, he talked our downtown's about the same size as it's Boston or something downtown, but it's all about density. We have a lot of empty lots. We have a lot of infill stuff that should be happening before we continue to move and go outward. And there is a strong proponent of that in the marketplace right now. So we're hoping that, and that's on both sides of the river, which we think is really positive.
I think you're hearing that in Fargo. I think you're hearing it more than, and I think you're hearing it in Bismarck. Just recently, the Bismarck mayor was talking about the same thing. We need to grow up and not out, and all that does make sense. So
we really do need to do a lot more infill, because if you drive around, it's amazing the amount of underutilized or vacant lots within the central core, but even as you move out, it's really amazing.
the only problem with that is a lot of that potential development out there becomes pretty attractive to certain ag people too.
Yeah.
It's they start seeing those dollar signs, and it looks pretty attractive to them as well. So it's okay.
All right.
Anything else?
No?
Frank? Jim, thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you
good
so
work.
much. Appreciate it.
Okay, we're right on schedule. We'll move to our 8:55 item, which is the Clay County Safe Roads Coalition. And it looks like we have the sheriff with us today, and Jane.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for making time for us this morning. We
Glad to
appreciate
have
that.
you.
I have some information for you about the grant. Well, basically, I guess I should give you an overview of who I am, introduce myself. My name is Jane Patrick. I'm a project consultant, and I'm working currently with the Clay County Towards Zero Death grant that they just received through the Moorhead Police Department, which started in October of this year. So, has anyone heard of it? Have you heard anything about it? There's been a few news things that have been
I've
released.
seen news clips on it.
Okay.
I think that's statewide, isn't it? Or
Yes, the Towards Zero Deaths
Mhm.
grants are statewide.
Mhm.
You often will hear of the mobilizations that law enforcement works
Right.
on, where they have enhanced patrols out for DWI arrests
Mhm.
and seatbelts and click it or ticket. You guys probably heard some of that.
And you got one of those going on right now, don't you, for holidays?
Yep, that is correct. And in part, that is, in large part, the reason that Clay County has received this grant is because of the, you're in the Minnesota's top 25 deadly counties for DWI and impaired driving. I think you're number
Huh? Yeah.
number
Not what we
22.
want to be in.
Yeah, that isn't usually where it's good. I'll just give you a little overview on the grant itself. Obviously, one of our primary goals as we start is to establish a coalition, and we've been working quite quickly on that. We do have a coalition established, which is comprised of the 4 E's, they call it, and that's emergency services, law enforcement, education, and engineering. And we do have individuals from all of those sectors in the county that are involved with that. Obviously, our goals are to reduce traffic deaths and serious injuries on the road. Again, our focus will be alcohol because we are higher a little bit than the state average. And then distracted driving is also a pretty significant focus that we'll work on over the years. So I guess in a nutshell, that's where the work plan is. I'm not going to go over that in detail, but I would like to point out that on January 20th is what we call our large coalition meeting. and you are all welcome to attend that. It is at the Moorhead Police Department here. It's at 1 o'clock on January 20th, and we'll, do some brainstorming there, some talking about ideas, activities, things that are going on, and the general public really is encouraged to attend and ask questions, find out what's up in your own communities there. So another focus that the coalition works on is looking at all the fatal crashes that do occur in the county. Currently, there have been, I think, 5 fatal crashes in Clay County for 2014, and we will be meeting next Friday, or rather next Monday morning, and going over those crashes. And what actually happens there is we have the individuals the EMS folks who responded to those crashes, the law enforcement folks. Oftentimes, if we're able, we will get the hospital staff there, things like that. The engineer comes and looks at the roadways. And what we are hoping to do at that fatal review session is to explore all the things that happened at the crash and see if there's anything that we can do differently, see if it's behavior related, impaired driving, things like that.
Is MnDOT at that meeting?
Yes, they generally are. Well, particularly if it's a Minnesota state highway, or if there's particular reason for them to be there, they are invited to be there. And then that's also what we do, is look at the roadways, decide if there's anything that can be changed on that. And sometimes it's, really expensive, obviously, to change a whole entire highway, but extra signage or things like that can often be accomplished if there's a real problem area. So that is about that. And then the high visibility campaigns that are on right now, I guess this is our latest or newest, our first little adventure here, and I'll just pass that around. This is a collaboration between all the law enforcement agencies in Clay County in our effort to support the impaired driving.
You want to hang it up in your house?
Yeah, you're welcome to have it. I'll leave it with you. And we're also going to be spending a lot of time working with teenagers and young people in the community, at the colleges, the high schools, things like that, in an effort to address distracted driving. So, do you have anything else you want to add to that, Bill, or we have?
I think we're good. I don't know if you heard, we had a crash last night with the truck and the train.
I heard that,
The
yeah.
problem is we can't find the driver.
Okay. Oh, no. Here in Moorhead, or?
No, it was out by Hawley.
Okay, okay.
Is it presumed that he's ran off, or?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay.
But ran off where, we don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So, going back to this, so we were number 22 in total DWIs, is that what?
You would be listed number 2 as the most, or the highest percent of drunk driving deaths.
Of drunk
So,
driving deaths,
yes.
number 22.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
You're number 22. So these 25 counties are given some extra funding
Okay,
to
okay.
enhance patrols for the DWI waves.
Is there a comparison? I noticed, just looking at this, and it seems that when you look at 1, 2, I mean, they're the most populous counties, so more than likely, they probably have a higher potential for incident rate.
They do.
Just because more people. But I find it kind of interesting that, 22, I'd rather be number 87, but the fact of the matter is I think we're the 12th largest city in Minnesota now, aren't we?
You mean population-wise?
Population-wise.
14?
Yeah,
We went up
okay.
one. We passed Ottertail County
I
last
thought we were 12, but, so it's, from a population standpoint, 12 to 22, if there's
It's not
any,
bad.
if there's any light in that, it's the fact that for our population, at least, we're,
That is true.
so, but it's still, I'd like to be off the board on that one.
Yeah, 87 would be a lot better, wouldn't it?
But you were talking earlier because, that North Dakota plays a part in that too, so.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, when you have 5 colleges, that's a big deal.
Mhm.
We have a graph or information that shows us trends of DWIs, and so what that's looking at is the number of drunk driving arrests that are made in the county. And we have a nice trend map that shows that actually arrests are going down. And what we've heard from law enforcement is that that's because they are having a hard time finding impaired drivers. So we do believe that the trend is changing. We believe that people's mentality is changing. People are making better choices. We believe that this TZD effort is working. When you tell people that there's extra patrols on the roads, they tend to stay home. So, you know, it's that high visibility thing, that promotional piece that we really are working on with this coalition. So that is about all we have. We'll just kind of keep you updated.
Okay.
Obviously, we ask your support in our Towards Zero Death and traffic efforts. If there's specific things that come up that we think you can help us with, we'll be sure to let you know that. And in the same,
You're not asking for any kind of resolution of
we're
support?
not. Nope, not at this time.
Just update,
There may come a time down the road when we would be interested in doing that.
Very good.
But certainly hope you will join us in our efforts. So.
Anything else, Sheriff?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Gene. Tim, good morning. We have a request to approve the final plat.
Yes, the final request, or request for final approval on I'm just going to shoot these around to give you some idea as to where this plat is located in the county. Go two that way, take three this way. Let us do it. Yeah. This plat has a lot of history. It was actually originally brought to us back in 1999 by Mr. Henry, and went through the process, and for whatever reason, Mr. Henry decided not to take it through the whole process, so we're back again. You can see from the aerial that I just passed out, it's located about a mile east and a mile south of the landfill road, just to the west, southwest of, depending on what document you look at, either Mariah Lake or Marin Lake. It's an 8-lot subdivision. The very western lot, the area west of Lot 1, is actually Mr. Henry's residence. So we've got 8 lots running around the corner there. Between 99 and now, Lot 3 had a small wetland on it back in 1999 that has grown substantially. So Lot 3 was originally platted as 2 lots, and given the size of the wetland on it, it was required that Mr. Henry combine what was lots 3 and 4 into Lot 3. But he did make one more lot down at the bottom. Lot 8 was cut off, so net number of lots was the same, 8 lots. There's something that the Planning Commission did that is a little bit out of the ordinary here. You'll see that lots 7 and 8 are serviced by an easement as opposed to having direct access on a public right-of-way. That was requested, and the Planning Commission thought that that would not be out of line. So those 2 lots are actually serviced by an easement. They do not have direct access other than through that easement to a public road right-of-way.
So they would not get public road service then?
No. It's a private drive that they have easements for. In essence, a private drive, although it's not on their property. So those 2 lots, they'll need to maintain that road on their own. Other than that, the subdivision looks the same, pretty much the same as it did back in the late 90s. We do not have a final drawing for it. There are some things that need to be fixed on the final drawing to meet the Minnesota statute on platting, also the county recorder's requirements. So that drawing is not available for signature now. But as far as the lot layout and everything, it is as it's intended to be. So I believe that the county board could approve this, give it final approval. We will not put a plat out for signature to anybody until it does meet the statute for platting and the county recorder and any other requirements necessary.
Jim, this is 14th that follows along here? Is that 14th Avenue South?
Right, the one on the top is 12th Avenue, and then as it comes down and turns
Here, so
east,
I'm looking, this piece here is what's 14th, isn't it?
No.
I think that's 12th until it gets down to the corner where it goes east,
Oh, I see, and then it
turns into 14th.
Okay.
So as it goes east,
So this is 12th, and right where it makes this bend, this is where it connects to 14th.
right.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not exactly sure how what the county convention on naming roads that do that kind of thing, whether they actually give that small chunk a street name or not.
Yeah, that's something that Mark Sloan left to be involved with that.
Yeah, and then, and the highway department. But anyway, that's one of the things that needs to be put onto the drawing is the street names
Mhm.
and everything else.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they made the adjustment on that number 3 lot, because we were wrestling with that for a long time.
Yep.
My understanding, though, that if he wants, he'll have to, on the south side of that lot is where he'd have the road entrance from the,
That would be the area that he could probably get by utilizing Wetland Conservation Act de minimis standards for a
and once he
driveway.
puts in a drive, even if the wetland grows, he's okay then with it, right?
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay. So the house would have to be up in the corner. on
The house would have to be in the
southwest
corner, and I know that I've talked, and Mr. Henry is behind me here. He has thoughts that somewhere down the road, utilizing, going through the Wetlands Conservation Act process and trying to, or acquiring wetland credits so he could fill some of that wetland and utilize the lot to provide a more usable area, excuse me.
So why is 4 considered a wetland? What's lot 4? Is it because down on the frontier?
No,
There's, if you see on the very upper right side of Lot 4, there's a little tongue of wetland, and it's really coming in right at the ditch.
Okay, so that's close to the,
widening ditch.
Yeah, but there's a lot of 4 where he can put a driveway and not have any impact on wetland at all.
Same as
so,
true on
so
2.
4, so lot 4, it's still, it's a buildable lot,
Yes,
isn't it?
the only one here where, there's a question on its buildability relative to the Wetlands Conservation Act
It's
is
3.
Lot 3.
Yeah, because of how much in on the lot the wetland
Right.
goes.
How much of the lot is taken up by wetland, and the fact that to put any access to that lot will require impacting the wetland to one degree or another.
Okay. So 7 of the 8 lots would be considered buildable today?
As it stands right now, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you for the update. Let's see, so you want, do we normally have the final plat in front of us before we do a final plat approval?
Normally. There are issues here, and it was requested that it come to the county board. The intent or the attempt is to try and get everything put together before the end of the year so that properties that, so he doesn't have to pay taxes on it again when it's split. If it goes past the end of the year, then in order to split any of these parcels, he has to pay full taxes on the whole piece. But yes, normally we have that, normally we have the paperwork that as soon as this meeting is over, you'll walk in and you sign it, and we'll have highway sign it and everything else. We do
That's
not
not there
have that
today.
today. Pardon me?
That's not there today.
That is not there today.
Do we need to do a contingent then, or how?
Well, I guess, like I said, we would not put anything out for signature when it's finally drafted that does not meet the state, the county, and any other pertinent requirements.
I'm reading between the lines here a little bit, and what I'm reading is that we're trying to assist the property owner in making sure that it can get properly titled.
Even if you approve it today, that may or may not happen.
Okay, so, but it seems to be that this is about homestead issues and some of those things that come into play. And I don't have a problem with that, you know, if that is the intention of what the final is supposed to be anyway.
Well, like I said, the drawing as you see it of the lots
Won't change.
won't change.
Okay.
There's some wording and some other miscellaneous things in the actual textual part of the document that are being addressed.
Could there be more restrictions put on that than we are aware of right now on the plot? With what's yet to be done?
No,
Okay,
no.
okay.
The drawing is what the planning commission approved as far as lot configuration is concerned. Like I said, the textual part is what meets more of the requirements.
So what's your recommendation here on this one?
My recommendation is to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I think this is a good use for this parcel of land, and I would move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I do agree. It's just a little bit out of what our normal sequence is. That
It
makes me
is.
just shudder slightly, but I will support it.
Does Jenny get involved with
And Jenny, do you have any comments on?
I was involved through Planning Commission. I've also met with SWCD on occasion about this particular piece of land, and it's followed all the normal channels. So, subject to that final drawing, we're right on course, so
Okay, so you're okay with it?
I'm okay, yeah.
All right, any other comments? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
When the
Thank you,
drawing
Tim.
comes in, the chair will be notified for signature.
All right,
And we're hoping that happens before the end of the year.
all right, very good.
Or it gets changed again.
Good luck, Mr. Henry.
Yes, thank you, Gordon.
We have a new, I believe we have a new resolution here from what was in the packet,
An additional one.
additional one. We'll move on to our 9:15 item. And this is the appointment of county auditor treasurer and the county recorder positions. And County Minister, Mr. Berg, do you want to give us an update?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Yes, you do have a new resolution handed out that replaces the old one. We had, either one would work, but we sought the legal assistance of Jenny, and she made some wordage adjustments, which meets it very well. But what this is about, if you recall, probably 2 years ago, we started on this process, maybe a little bit longer than that, and it's coming to fruition here, and that is the appointment of our auditor treasurer and our recorder. They have, in Clay County, I suppose 125 years or more, have been an elected position. So this is a big move for Clay County. But through the board's wisdom, they felt that the positions have advanced to the point of needing qualifications and selection process and different things with it. And in order to do that, I suppose there could have been changes within the legislation to require requirements and things. I'll just use what we used in our testimony. I'll use the auditor-treasurer position, for example. Your auditor is your fiscal agent for the county, oversees a $63 million budget, that requires some qualifications. That requires a lot of qualifications, and the law didn't allow for that. And plus, to have one department within the land management, or two departments within a land management function that takes place that are elected, and then the rest are appointed by you folks, it was clumsy at best. This will allow for efficiencies in the future, and it removes the two positions from elected positions, which the two people that occupy those positions currently prefer. And I know Commissioner Wayland went down and testified on this. We appreciate that. It moved it forward very nice. We had very strong support from our legislators and from you people and the people that hold those positions. So with that, Mr. Chair, there's a lot more work than that went into it, but it brings you kind of up to date of where we're at here. Today, to solidify this, we're asking for approval of a resolution, and if you would like, we could certainly read that into the record, or we have a copy of it for the record. But this is a big deal. This is changing two elected positions to appointed positions, and it deserves a lot of attention, let's say. And
Well, seeing as though it
importance.
deserves that much attention, why don't you read the resolution?
Okay, I was hoping you would, but that's okay. Okay, well, I think it does. I think it's a big move for the county.
I would
and for
read
the
it,
position.
but I'm struggling with it.
Okay, okay. This is a resolution appointing the offices of Clay County Auditor, Treasurer, and County Recorder. Whereas Minnesota Session Laws 2014, Chapter 161, Senate File 629, is an act that provides a process for making certain elected county offices appointed in Clay County. After being passed by both the Minnesota House and Senate, the bill was signed into law by the governor on March 12, 2014. And whereas on March 18, 2014, the Clay County Board of Commissioners resolved to appoint the offices of County Auditor, Treasurer, and County Recorder effective upon completion of the term of office to which the incumbent was elected, or until a vacancy occurs in the office, Clay County Resolution 2014-21, and whereas the current terms of offices of Clay County Auditor, Treasurer, and Clay County Recorder will expire on December 31st, 2014. Therefore, be it resolved that the Clay County Board of Commissioners hereby appoints Lori J. Johnson to the office of Clay County Auditor, Treasurer, effective January 1st, 2015. And be it further resolved that the Clay County Board of Commissioners hereby appoints Diane M. Streifold to the office of Clay County Recorder, effective January 1, 2015, adopted by the county board, hopefully on this date.
Mr. Chair, I move resolution 2014-50.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any complaints from the two involved here? No, not at all? Good. What's that? A minor one? All right, any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried, and congratulations to Lori Johnson and to Diane Streichel.
And Mr. Chair, you don't have this information before you, but this is something that the PIC committee has reviewed and evaluated, and just so that we probably, I think, would be good to have a motion on it as well, is that Ms. Johnson will continue on her pay grade like she has been established, and it'll be a auditor treasurer's pay grade, and that she will be credited with a vacation bank of 240 hours, which is the maximum. She's been here 27 years, and she will be credited with a sick leave bank of 1,296 hours, and that is half of what she would have accumulated, and which the PIC committee recommends and
Right.
endorses.
Okay, yes, so we did have that in our PIC committee, and it was agreed that that was appropriate. So
Yes.
I would certainly support a motion in that respect.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
And a second motion, or a third motion for Ms. Streifold. She was appointed, I believe it was in March, to take over the recorder's office, and what we had discussed with her and with the PIC committee is that she froze her vacation that she had on the books at that time, and she froze her vacation bank at that time, and we would just, I guess, reunite her with that bank and continue on, and she's in agreement with that. And also, she would be established on the pay grade of grade 23 at step 4, and that pretty much is a continuation of the pay grade that she is at, and she is comfortable with that as well. So,
So moved.
Okay. Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. All right. Now
Thank
their
you.
jobs are done and they can get paid. Okay. Do we have a, yeah, are you gonna have an official one to sign? or- okay. Sure, is that the one on that? Oh, it's, yeah, no, it's faster. Our 925 item, Clay County tobacco-free policy. We're going to have Keely and Kathy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We had this agenda item at one of the previous board meetings, and then there was a recommendation to have a committee to review that. And the committee was Commissioner Campbell and Commissioner Everett, our county administrator, Brian, Human Resources, Darren, Georgia, and then Keely and myself. So we did meet to review this policy and had a lot of discussion about the details of that. So I think in your packet, you have a revised policy, I believe, is what you received. So some of the revisions, there was just really a few revisions under the policy area of the tobacco policy. We removed the in private vehicles on company-owned, leased, or rented property. That was in the old policy. So that fourth bullet was actually removed, which was, those are the items that were prohibited. Under the guidelines section, there was a section 3 where employees will not be allowed to use tobacco products during times they are assigned to be at work, including paid break times. That was removed as well. And then there was a section that was policy enforcement, and there was some action for violations, and all of those violations were removed from the policy.
They didn't need to be there because
Correct.
they're in another policy that.
That is correct,
Yeah.
right. So the committee agreed, those were really the only 3 changes.
What we had talked about, and I certainly thought we had come to an agreement that people smoking in their private vehicles on county property was still to be accepted.
Correct.
I don't read that in here.
Well, we,
And I
Keely,
have.
yep. Sorry, Keely has a
Okay, so you have a
change.
modification for that?
Yes.
Is that
Mr.
what, is
Berg-
it kind of what Brian
Yeah,
had?
he
Okay.
sent something out, so
Good,
and that was
okay.
after we had already put it in the board packet, so.
Okay, that was my biggest concern.
Yes, so we added that. I apologize, we didn't get that sent out earlier, but, so that was added. You'll see that under the policy section, under bullet 2.
Give me just a second.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, that works.
That works, yes. Yeah, that was added based on Brian's recommendations. So that's a little bit clearer.
Yeah, that's very, that was, of all of them, we had gone around a little bit about should we go from having 8 smoke places down to 1 or something and slowly transition that out, but in kind of giving into the public health and what your purpose in life is to do is to eliminate smoking from the face of the planet, that we felt that maybe we should just support your efforts in that regard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
However, we do have people in this county who come to our facilities that are smoking illegal product, and they need to, when they're here, and quite frankly, it could be an employee of ours, and they need to be, if they can go to their own vehicle to smoke, then that's their business to do so.
Yep.
So that, I thought it was a good compromise, and I'm very pleased with that. I don't know if you're gonna go over any more. I did, I did read one other one that I just wanted to, maybe I just didn't read it clearly enough earlier, if I could, Keely, to ask you about. And it's on number 5 on the last page.
Under the guidelines?
Yeah. I'm assuming that's what it's under. Yes, under the guidelines. It says here, tobacco use is also prohibited at any county-sponsored event or gathering, or while employees are representing Clay County at any function, or while participating in any company-paid conferences. This brings me to, I just happened to think about, boy, all of our county employees just spent a few hours last week at a Christmas party in a private facility. And I'm assuming that if there was a few county employees that went out and took advantage of the open space that's provided for smoking. Would this penalize them for doing that?
Well, the thought with this one is that they would be able to use the designated areas in those like that spot, like outside the bar or restaurant. But like say we had a company picnic in a park setting, that would be something that would be covered under that.
So, going to the scenario that I just talked about, your employees, you have established your own Christmas party, but it's still, you could say it's still kind of a county-sponsored event.
Yep.
And according to this, it says there can't be any smoking at a county-sponsored event. And this is in a bowling alley / bar, this particular one was. And there was a good turnout there. And some of our employees elect to go out into what is a designated smoking area for the public. My concern is under those circumstances, should they get a check mark against them as violating company policy in a situation like that?
Should we add, except in designated areas, if it's off?
Or just
Okay.
adhere to the.
Well, but I just think we need to be fair to these employees when we do these things. A lot of times you don't think of them, and maybe there was never the intent.
Right.
Maybe there was never the intent that they get penalized, but the fact of the matter, if it is there, and you might have one person who didn't like the fact that this person went and smoked, then they go and complain. They say, well, I want that person violated this policy. And I would just like to have clarification on this if we're going to do it right.
Yep.
Especially, we're off county property now.
Right.
Yeah.
We're completely off county property.
Can't you just put that they would
Except-
adhere to the venue's rules wherever that function was taking place?
That would make more sense to me, that which is you would abide by the
Venues
rules of the,
Sure.
are you okay with that?
Yeah. Yep.
That was the only other area that I saw that, I mean, there was some other areas, but I kind of gave into all of those. Getting strong-armed by John and you two.
There was no physical
And I had my weak partners in Daryl and Brian. Frank?
It says that it applies to all employees, clients, guests, volunteers, I'm just wondering about the enforcement of something like this. I mean, if I live 2 blocks down and I walk across county property, just taking a walk, or whatever the case may be, as soon as I hit the corner, I gotta put my cigarette out, and then I can light up again. I mean, are we having any plans on enforcing this, or are we posting anything that is gonna be illegal to do something like that, or?
Yep, and we have free signs that are available that say, "Welcome to our tobacco-free campus." And so at that point, really signage is, and communication is the biggest ways of trying to enforce the policy. If somebody's just taking a walk, by the time, nobody's probably gonna even see them by the time they cross our county property, but.
But it is against the law, or the rules?
Our
Not
policy.
laws, but
Yeah,
rules.
yep.
Okay. The same thing
somebody
under
could
the
just
scope,
remind-
you know, it says also applies to contractors, vendors, clients, guests, volunteers. I see we got that in there, and I mean, I'm looking at, if we're not gonna enforce it, why do we have it in there?
Well, I think the way that what they're talking about is the enforcement's gonna be, would be that they're gonna just be asked to put the cigarette out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be any punishment, like, for people who are here, or calling the cops or anything like
It's
that.
a mandate, but you don't have to do it.
Our jail is full enough, Frank, we don't need to.
And it's similar to what you said, MSUM and Concordia campuses,
Right.
they all have it. and-
Otter Tail does, Wilken County has a form of a
Sanford.
policy. Yep.
I'm in full agreement with this, I mean, but it's
It's,
just
the policing, we spent a lot of time talking about
how you wanna police this, it's just, I mean, we got stuff on here that,
and you're gonna run into, especially next door, you're gonna run into some of our clientele who isn't gonna be interested in you telling them to put that cigarette out.
I mean, if we're not gonna enforce it, why are we doing it, you know?
Right?
And it does, and over time,
Yeah.
you get accustomed to the policy. So just like when we had our designated areas, it took a long time for people to even determine where they have to go. So over time, people get accustomed to the policy.
Mr. Chair, I move the policy in front of us.
Okay, we have a motion,
I'll second.
and we have a second. Now, John, you had some discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I mean, I think there are a lot of rules in this society that are not enforceable, but just setting the rules like as expectations, most people will follow, most people will adhere to it. I don't think we have to be, worried about going out and penalizing somebody for, obviously if they come in a building, that's gonna be a more serious effect than just walking by on a sidewalk. But I don't think we need to be.
Well, I was just wondering whether we could just put up signs, do we need to approve something like this, or can we just put up signs and saying there's no smoking on it?
Well, that's what this will do.
This allows them to put sign. I want to go back to your motion and your second. Your motion and your second was as
With that
proposed.
correction.
With the changes. Okay.
Got down.
Would you be willing to make the change regarding the off-site
Yes.
issues? So
Yes.
can we make
Yes.
that
Yes.
Absolutely.
clear that I don't want an accounting employee penalized
Right.
for something
Yeah.
that's off-site. I just don't want that. That's not right. Okay. Any other comments? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
And then just one question about implementation date,
Mhm.
what you guys would.
Keely, you had sent an email out and you were looking at you're suggesting maybe the April timeframe or something?
Yeah, so, I mean, if we wanted to tie it to some, like, national awareness days, like March 18th is Kick Butts Day, and then May 31st is World Tobacco Day. Sometimes if we tie it to something bigger, it creates a little bit more media and more awareness for people here at the campus. So if those were a date that you guys.
Well, I'm interested in a timing sequence that gives all of our, especially our employees who
Yep.
are here, ample time to be aware of the changes and when they're coming.
Yeah, yep.
And I would think that there should be a letter to the courts, a direction to the courts for, they may want to make some sort of notification to potential jurors when they come
Sure.
here, so that they're aware of it before they get here, what their options are if they are smokers. I don't know that the courts will do that or not, but at least
Sure.
they should have the opportunity to do that.
Right,
Sure.
Right.
yep.
So, so Keely, I think if you want to come back to us with time where you think you can
Get that all done.
have all that stuff ready and there's an appropriate amount of time unless other commissioners have a different idea.
Maybe she could, you think that the time for around April 1st is,
Yeah.
should we, would you rather have it like March 18th or one of those
Well,
dates?
I think if we do it, April 1st is fine. I mean, a first of the month is probably just as easy.
You could have it on St. Patrick's Day. You can stop smoking, drink green beer.
That will be our public health campaign.
I would move that we set
Just a
April
little
1st.
fun here.
I would move that we set April 1st as our date to
That's an
implement.
April Fool's Day, so.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
We have a motion and a second for April 1st. We're drifting here.
Think nobody would.
Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy, you're going to stay up here.
I'll stay here.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Julie.
Kathy.
Thanks, Keely.
Thanks.
All right, now we're going to talk about detox. And how this place seems to manage to keep shifting and shifting and shifting. We go from 10 to 15 to 10, or whatever it is, 10 to 6 and 6 to 10, and
Well, actually, we've only been 16 to 10, and we've been at 10 for quite a long time.
Well, there we go.
So we haven't shifted
well, we did
since
shift.
then.
It just felt- it was, I should say it felt like we just did this yesterday.
Really?
Oh, that was quite
Shows how old you are.
How long ago was it?
Wow.
10 years, huh?
It's
What?
been a while,
Oh,
yeah.
at least 10 years.
Time flies when you're having fun.
And boy, are we having fun.
Ta-da. Okay, let's move on.
And hopefully you'll be okay with the change in order on the information sheet, because some of the items will go quicker than others. The first item I have on the information sheet is about our long-term employee who has been out on FMLA and with a major medical event. His 12 weeks of leave have been up. He has received some donations from other county employees. And so we're really requesting, he anticipates wanting to come back if he is able. He's been an employee for 18, 19 years with the county. So our request is just at least to have the leave of absence through the end of this month. And we're monitoring, we're checking in with him every week. He still believes he can come back. So we're just not sure. So we'd like to continue the leave of absence and give him the opportunity to see if in the first week of January, if he's able to come back.
I would like to, just for the record, I'd get our Human Resource Director up here and just get his, Darren, if you could, I think for us it would be good to hear your thoughts on this, just to, anytime we do these types of things,
Sure.
we have
And
to worry
and
about
we've been communicating with
potential
Darren, so-
future issues or with others, and
Yeah.
so I just want to get his opinion here.
We've discussed this on numerous occasions. We've had a lot of conversation between Kathy and myself, and this individual is a long-term employee. We have done this before. It isn't uncommon.
Okay.
But according to the personnel policy, if anybody is out more than 30 days on an unpaid leave, that it would have to come to the board for approval. With this individual, we're looking at the end of December to really start making some decisions on whether he will be able to come back. His desire is to come back. Whether that's possible to come back and do the job that he's been assigned to do is what we're probably going to have to find out in the January timeframe. So this is more of a routine coming to the board based on the personnel policy of somebody that's been out on unpaid leave for more than 30 days.
Okay, so he's had his number of days, plus he's probably had the assistance of other employees for some, is that
Correct.
correct?
He's had-
To extend that?
Correct. He was on FMLA, and then we put in 4 leave donations to take him through some other payrolls. And so I think it was as of the last payroll,
Yes.
he was completely out of leave at this point. So
Okay.
this would take him through the December timeframe.
So how many weeks are we comfortable in saying, well, extend this out? What's
You know, a lot of that has to do with the position and the department head. You know, we have extended leave for some positions that we can fill very quickly with maybe a variable hour employee or somebody that we know is going to come back but can't make it within the 30 days. But then there's other positions that we have that are critical, that would need to be replaced very quickly, that maybe need a lot of train-up time, that maybe we wouldn't be able to fill with a variable hour very quickly. So a lot of it has to do with what the position is and then how long the department head can go without that position, or, you know, hiring a temp or something along those lines. So those are all the decisions that we have to make on whether we can extend their leave or have to release a person because we need that person in that position.
So you're good with what they're proposing?
Yes.
All right.
And in this case, we have 2 variable hour nurses that are filling the workload of this
Can we just
individual.
take these and vote these one at a time as we
We
go
sure
through them? Is
can.
that okay with you, Kathy?
Absolutely.
Just do that? So because this is your first request.
Correct.
Why don't we just act on this, board members, if that's
I'll
okay?
move. Mr. Chair, I would move that we grant this leave of absence that's been requested.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just want to comment, if we had only given Commissioner Ingersoll 30 days, we would have missed his great return to us and his new strength and vigor, so I think it's something we should do.
You're here. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Okay, agreement with the VA.
Okay, so the VA, Janelle and I had a conversation with officials over at the VA, oh my goodness, a number of months ago. 8, 9 months ago, I suspect. And they were very interested, based on of course, the interstate agreement. We have already a contract with another agency in North Dakota, in Fargo. So they're very interested in utilizing our detox, and we have received a request. They initially thought they would not be ready to move with us until 2016. They have done their analysis and all of their work to determine that they can actually move on this agreement starting January 1st, 2015, so coming right up. So we agree, it's a similar agreement to what we have with the other facility. You know, we'll have additional clients that will be serving with Fargo VA. So Janelle and I agree that we would like to move on this agreement with the Fargo VA if the board agrees to that as well.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So, do they have a number of patients they're anticipating on a regular basis?
No, they'd still need to have some discussion with us about numbers. We don't have any idea about the numbers that they would provide to us. You know, a guesstimate, but they don't have anything official at this point.
So how about costs then to us for Clay County for doing something like this? And is it working out financially with what we're doing with North Dakota already?
Right. The revenue that we would receive is the same contract that we have with the other entity. And so we anticipate, you know, we can even say 2 or 3 days a month, that would be on the low level. We would anticipate that revenue increase for our agency, for our detox.
And I'm assuming this would be as long as there's space available,
Correct.
right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the contract with the Fargo VA.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? So these actual contracts, has Jenny looked at these?
When we get the official contract from the VA, we just have some preliminary forms we're filling out with them now. When the official contract comes over, I'll send it to Jenny, and then we will then have to send it for the board signature and approval.
Okay, so
We haven't reviewed the official contract.
so what we're voting on now on these is just the concept of doing this.
Right, to move forward with
To move
their
forward.
request.
All right, just so that's clear then, so.
Yes.
Okay, did we vote on that last one? Okay, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same, motion carried.
And then-
Okay, the next one is your discussion
Yeah,
to
can we
increase.
skip number 3?
Oh,
We've got
okay.
a few other ones that will be a bit quicker than that.
Okay.
Number 4 is the chemical dependency assessor, and I realized we have a contract with one, and then we have another variable hour individual that does our chemical dependency assessments, which are a requirement of our detox facility. We have the contracted individual that's ending his contract with us, so it's more of an FYI, I guess you don't need to approve it, because it will be another variable hour. We're planning to have another variable hour employee. So we will need, because we need the coverage, so we'll need 2 assessors. It's already budgeted, so it's really more of a information that we'll have to be advertising for another chemical dependency assessor.
Okay.
And it would be variable hours, so we really don't need, I put it down as board approval, but then I realized I guess we don't need that for variable hour. The next one, number 5, currently we have a .8 technician, and our request is to move her up to 1 FTE. We do need her at 1 FTE. We've been filling that extra .2 with variable hour staff. She agrees to move up to 1 FTE, and so for just our staffing needs, my request is to move that individual from .8 to 1 FTE.
And did you include that in your 15 budget?
Yes.
Okay.
So move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same, motion carried.
Okay, number 6 is our detox policies. Annually, you approve our policies, which is required by our licensure. The policies are based on the regulations from the Department of Human Services and the Minnesota Department of Health. So Janelle ties all the policies to those regulations. They will be the same as last year, other than some staffing changes and if we change any bed capacity. So at this point, there's no changes in our policies. So we just need a statement that you're approving the policies. Again, if we change them, we can
We're
adjust that.
just reaffirming our current policies, is that what we're doing?
That's correct. And then we just need a dated, I believe, Mr. Campbell, you have the form to sign that.
I believe Vicki has it.
Somebody has that.
The one who knows what's going on has it.
And we put the table of contents, and the policy is quite a large manual, so I didn't think you'd like to review all of those, so the table of contents is there. if you have any
And
questions.
at some point, I would assume Jenny has reviewed those
I
things.
second the motion.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think
Officially,
I don't think I
if you-
have, but I don't think they've changed since they were reviewed by
Right.
Michelle Lawson, so.
Okay.
Right,
If
yeah,
there's no changes, then there's no.
yeah. Other than if there's a Department of Human Service change or a Minnesota Department of Health, of course, then our policies change based on their regulations.
Right.
so.
All right, we have a motion and a second to reaffirm the current policies in place for detox. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Now we want to go back to the one that you were not wanting to talk about.
Is that kind of obvious?
Well, you kind of just slid by it. I usually count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You went 1, 2, 4,
Not
5.
sure why I put that in the middle. I was hoping I could hide that. What we wanted to do really is, we wanted to talk about our staffing, and along with our staffing goes maybe a discussion about bed capacity. But we have been working with, less regular employees and a lot more variable hour employees and on-call employees. And it gets to be very problematic, particularly for Janelle in trying to staff detox. The on-call variable hour staff are really not very available. They usually have full-time jobs, or they're going to school, and so what Janelle runs into is a lot of inability to meet our staffing needs. Also, the variable, so that's on call, and a lot of people, you know, when you're on call, you're making just a few dollars an hour, and most people really don't want to spend, you know, a lot of time being available to come in if they need to, and making limited dollars. The variable hour staff is also in the same, they're kind of in the same boat, where they usually have other commitments, school and other employment. So it's been very challenging, and the reason why we went to that, if you remember 10 years ago, when we went to 10-bed, is really to kind of limit the staff and try to, you know, manage the budget in a more cost-effective way. But it's really become more problematic as the variable hour staff are just unavailable. So what we'd like to do is just add additional regular staff to manage this detox. It will eliminate a lot of the need for on-call staff. On-call staff right now, there's one staff on the unit, and then if they need help based on the number of clients or their level of manageability, we call in a second person. So they end up being on call, they come in if there's a need. There's often times that they need to come in. One person can't manage, even if there's 5 clients, but they're really a lot of maintenance, so we might need the second person. So we're requesting to add an additional 2.8 LPNs to our list right now, to have more of the regular staff, utilize less of the roster staff, and then also less on-call staff. We anticipate our contract with Southeast, we anticipate a full contract next year, and that's playing out in the last year and a half that we've had them. So that's an additional revenue if we meet the full capacity. And with the new VA contract, that will add additional clients that will provide additional revenue for us. So we don't anticipate, our best anticipation is that we will be able to cover this with the revenue. We're not requesting any additional county dollars at this time. We did pay out additional money for people for overtime hours, because we had to use regular staff when variable hour staff could not work. So we incurred costs this last year with adding overtime hours as well. So that's part of the discussion about the additional staff. Along with that, is this the time to look at increasing our bed count to 16 bed again? We'd have to relicense up to 16 bed. There's always the concern that if we're full, and we hear this from the law enforcement officials, when we're full, then they have to transport a client, usually to Fergus Falls or some other facility. And we have been full throughout this year. We think there's been about 27 clients that we had to turn away because our capacity was such that we couldn't take them. So there's revenue lost at that point.
When they go to Sioux Falls, who pays that?
Fergus Falls.
Fergus Falls, yeah. If it's a client from our area, we end up paying it.
Yeah, if it's a
We
client
pay
from
the
our
cost.
area that we have to
Correct.
send over there.
That's correct. And then if we have a client that Southeast can't place here, then they have to find,
I've got a question about how you determine it. Is it if they have an address in Clay County, or if they're picked up in Clay County?
If they're picked up in Clay County,
Then we pay,
yeah.
even if they're Fargo resident or...
We can contact the case managers at that time too and discuss it. Sometimes they will, depending on the incident. But majority of the time, if they're not referred over here and they've been drinking over here, then we end up paying for it.
and we have a large number of homeless population, who have no address.
Right.
So there's a large number of clients we serve
And
that
we
are.
get those.
We'd obviously pay for
We
those.
get a lot of those.
We don't get a lot of the ones, like for Southeast, they refer all of theirs, so it's just once in a great while if you have somebody that comes in drinking off the streets in Clay County. So that doesn't happen very often.
Wayne, did you have
Yes. Will you have any difficulty hiring somebody for 32 hours, say, other than putting forth a 40-hour position?
I don't know. It's a hard, detox is a hard area to fill no matter what kind of staffing we have. We've had challenges,
Okay,
retaining people, but we're hoping.
What about benefits at 32 hours?
It's prorated at 32 hours, so
Okay.
So.
Do you anticipate any concern getting
Well,
hiring people?
we would be looking for 2 LPNs. I certainly do have concern that we can recruit 2 LPNs, whether it's full-time or .8. I guess, if you add both of those positions, if we have difficulty, maybe there's a possibility to hire 1 full-time and 1 at .6.
So,
You've answered my question.
Mhm.
so I think the process here, we need to determine first if we're going to go from 10 to 16, don't we, isn't it?
Well, I think we really feel like we need to enhance our staffing. We have limited regular staff and.
Even at 10?
Even at 10, I think the challenges that Janelle has for staffing with the roster, we have a lot of roster. We have about 19 roster employees right now, and that's very difficult. So I think we're really looking at, we'd really like to request additional regular staff. It eliminates the roster usage.
And if the rosters can't cover, then that falls back on permanent staff.
So Brian, we did something similar to this in the juvenile detention, right? Where we did add a couple, and we basically took the dollars away from the roster dollars,
That's
right,
correct.
to help fund the, and that seems to be working.
It's working extremely well. And if I may, Mr. Chair, if I may enter in on here, we've had, I'll have to say, several conversations
Yes.
about this issue. In fact, I was contacted directly by the union business agent and a couple employees, and they are really running with a skeleton crew there. They have 2 people out one is back now, I think, on family leave. And they are just, for what the demands have been put on them with the increased population. And frankly, I don't know what the costs were a few years ago, but I thought you were up in the $500,000 and $600,000 range where the
Yes.
county dollars were going to it. You'll see right now, it's county dollars of $451,000, and frankly, the year may turn out to be even a little bit better because they have generated revenue. They're really doing a good job over there, but they do need some relief, even without going to the requested 16 beds. They do need some, and as we talked, the overtime hours and the variable hour employees and the overtime, or the on-call that you're paying, it's not going to run you much more money, and frankly, we'll keep a close eye on that. I think it's really needed. It just really seems tough on the employees.
Just so I get my hands around this thing, so I understand it. So you're looking at doing a shift in compensation dollars to
Correct.
go more towards the full-time versus roster, is
Correct.
really what we're talking about here.
Regular staff,
And
yes.
so, for that part of it, and we're still talking about under the current conditions of the facility handling up to 10.
Yes.
So with that, this restructuring of your dollars, still meeting your 2015 budget?
That's correct. We
Okay.
have, I think in your packet, you have the cost of 2 LPNs.
Right, yeah, I kind
So
of,
that would meet, yes, we would have revenue generated to meet that.
I was playing with my calculator yesterday on those things, and
Okay.
I ended up getting the same numbers you did.
Wow, thanks, Mary.
Good job, Mary.
Give credit where credit is due.
So anyway, as a matter of fact, they were to the penny. Geez, I was impressed with either you or me. I'm not sure. I knew it coming from Mary. It was gonna be good. So okay, so now then, and so that part, I think that makes sense. So do you want, how do you want to handle that part? Do you want to just make a motion to deal with that now?
That would be great. If we could
Okay.
get approval for the additional
Okay.
requested staff.
Okay, and then we can still talk about the 10 to 16, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, so there's a request to make those changes.
I would so move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Excuse me. All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. Okay, now the 10 to 16. That's what we got left, isn't it?
That's correct, yes. Now, I know, in our average, in our annual statistics at this point, I mean, our average client census continues to rise over the years. Our average really is around 7, so it looks like we don't meet the 10, but it fluctuates as it would. You know, we have times where we could have 12 or 13 or 14 in there, and then other times it goes down. I think in this business, as we've monitored it, it's always going to fluctuate. There's always going to be the up and down. We're concerned with the VA contract, you know, and if they have a large number of clients, we won't know till we start that process, then that could put us over the 10 consistently.
I would think if you go over 10, the cost of transporting a client might run into several $100s. Say to Fergus Falls, and there's mileage both ways,
And it requires the sheriff's department or
Yes.
someone to transport the client, so
Okay.
that takes them out of the, you know,
Stay at the facility.
and the cost for the
plus it's at
facility, correct.
So it could be money ahead by technically going to 16 beds.
So is this also then overseen by the DOC?
No.
Staffing levels and all that, that's not, who's that, who oversees?
Department of Human Services.
Okay, Department of Human Services in this case oversees.
Correct.
And do they, going from 10 to 16, what, is there a change in staffing requirements?
Yes.
And how many is that?
Our requirement, if we're over 10 beds, it requires 2 individuals each shift on the unit.
Okay. Grant?
Well, that's my concern, Kathy, that we're going to get back into the situation we were before we started all these negotiations with North Dakota and trying to relieve some of our financial burden with running a detox center. And so, you know, so we go to the state and we increase to 16 beds again. And is it possible to wait for that request until we see what the VA implications are, or is that going to cause more problems for us?
We can wait to see what that implication would be. We can change the licensure at any time. There's not a requirement to change it at the first of the year. If we decide to do it in February or March, it just is, it requires us to enter the paperwork to the Department of Human Services. I suspect that would take a month or 2 for their request to go through, depending on their, how backlogged they are, but.
That's what makes me nervous, is that we hire more employees because we're required to based on the number of beds we're operating, and then we find ourselves in that situation again where, you know,
We're low on bed.
We're low on, yeah, or
Low on people.
we're low on people, but
Yeah.
we're still having to spend the money, which is what kind of got all this going to begin with, so I guess that would be, you know, if it's possible, unless we're in a dire situation right now in terms of approving those beds, if we can do it at any time during the year.
Yes.
Maybe after we make this connection with the VA and we see what's actually going to happen with that. That certainly has the possibility to increase the number, the use we're going to have, so.
Sure does.
Yeah, I guess I'm, the 2 people we just added, that's needed for the 10. What are you
Yes.
proposing for added if we go to 16?
Well, that's needed for the 10, and that would carry over into 16. We would maybe add just 1 more additional regular staff, because we'll still use roster staff for the weekends as much as possible. So we'll
So we got-
we'll continue to have variable hour staff, but we
So-
really need the regular staff because Janella's doing a lot of the, you
So
know,
the roster we could still use the roster to cover up until,
Mhm.
you know, we get to that 16 or whatever. And
Right.
then,
But you
and then we
pulled
can
some of
decide.
your roster dollars to.
Right, we
cover
pulled
it.
some for this regular staff.
You know, I kind of, I'm going to let Wayne go first, I know.
My concern was if we go to 16 beds, there'd be quite a bit of lag time in opening up a position for 2 full-time employees. However, you just basically answered that you're going to have maybe 0.5 or 0.6 person that you can take care of with roster staff or people calling in for overtime. So maybe that's not such a big issue after all then. If we did go to 16 beds, you know, Grant, you certainly had a very legitimate concern, but if we did go to 16 beds, there wouldn't really be any lag time in getting those extra employees on to cover that, would there?
Not too much, no,
Okay.
because we'd have many of the regular staff on board already.
Well, my experience in dealing with these things, and we're in the process right now of something similar in our West Central Juvenile Detention Center. When we brought in Cass County, there was a proposal to increase staff by 6, because that's what they felt would be needed for this additional. And so then when we started really digging deep down and asking questions, then it was determined that, well, geez, maybe you can try starting here first, and let's just get some of the history, like what Commissioner Whalen was talking about, to make those good decisions. I don't think you're going to fall short. If you have right now, if the 16-bed deal was approved, I still think you could find assistance in the short term to keep it running, just based on what your comments were to Commissioner Ingersoll. But then, in terms of us acting on more of a permanent replacement or filling in of these, that's the area that I agree with Commissioner Wayland on, that we just went through this process when things slowed down, and then we had to you have to start doing cutbacks. And I'd rather work our way up based on known needs, because right now we're somewhat guessing. We don't really, nobody at this table today has been able to tell us clearly what the VA is going to bring.
Right.
And so until we know that, it would seem to me that the application and the going to the 10 to 16 bed isn't as big of an issue as the staffing of it is. And so from the staffing standpoint, I think we'd have the room and the time to work into that. It would make sense to me. Grant, what do you think on that?
Well, yeah, I certainly agree with that, but how long, Kathy, does it take when you reapply for the 16 beds? Say you applied tomorrow, how long would it be till they would authorize the additional 6 beds?
We talked to the Department of Human Services, and because we had previously been licensed as a 16-bed, really the structure's there, the beds are there, the square footage, there's nothing that changes because we haven't moved, so it should be relatively short. I don't know, we would hope that it would be a 30-day turnaround.
Okay. So it wouldn't take that long if we get in that situation anyway.
Right, correct.
To move it up to a 16-bed facility.
So with your hires that we've done today, the work that we've done today to change your staff levels, if we were to submit that application from 10 to 16, would the Department of Health and Human Services be satisfied with our staffing levels to start?
If we moved up to a 16-bed, we might.
Between what you have and then, like you said, if we were to use roster people.
Oh, with the variable hour people,
With
sure.
variable hour people. So we have that to fall back on to first start. And now, granted, if that wasn't working and we were seeing more activity coming from the VA, where we were seeing more, that also would mean more revenue to us, wouldn't it?
That's correct.
And so then we would get a better idea to have that revenue then to support making the change in our own personnel,
That's right.
right? And
Right.
Doesn't that seem to be
Yes.
a
And we
decent-
certainly can come back as we progress with the VA contract and the other contract. I mean, as we see the need rise or see the numbers, they aren't able to give us hard numbers. So that's kind of the challenge.
And even though you have a 16-bed facility, if we have 14 in there and we just can't staff any more than that right now, can you turn away 2 people? because you just don't have the staffing on hand to help them.
Oh, right, if we went up to 16 bed, are you asking
Yeah.
like a scenario? And
Yeah.
can we turn people away because we don't have the staff? Yes, we would be required to.
You- I
If we
would think
can't
you would.
provide the safe care, no matter how many
Yeah.
beds you have.
So that might cost us something because
It
we're going
might.
to send them someplace else.
That's correct.
But that would just be another thing that we'd have to make note of. We're transferring, a month ago, we transferred out 37 inmates out of our Clay County Jail. That's some $80 a day, so.
55.
Right,
It's
and
more.
and it'll
So-
cost us when we transport someone to another facility, that's a cost.
Well, Grant, I know you've been involved with this whole detox thing. I don't see a problem with it going from 10 to 16. I'm a little bit more concerned about the staffing up front on it.
Well, yeah, but once you're, I guess that's my concern, like I said, if we go to that 16 bed, are we gonna have requirements that are gonna increase our costs, and we're not gonna have the clients to meet that
Right.
cost, and then we've got ourselves back in that situation. Now what do? We decrease, I'm not sure the state's gonna look favorably on that if we keep going back and forth with where we're at in terms of, so that's all I'm saying is it's not that we don't, need the 16 beds, but I'm not sure, I don't think we really know that for sure yet. So rather than get us in a situation where now we're committed to the 16 beds again and we're not, and we're only using half of them.
Okay, John?
I think I'm comfortable with waiting to make that increase. Early in January, we should have some feeling as to what we're going to get from VA. And if it's only going to be a month turnaround, I would think that we could make that application, and a month later we'd be in business. So I think,
Yeah.
too, we should wait, and as long as you say the flexible staff can carry us as we're moving up,
Right.
and I think we should be fine.
Yeah, I agree.
So-
That was, if it were gonna take 6 or 8 months for the state to approve those 16
Right.
beds, be a different situation.
Right,
But
right.
if we're looking at a likely 30-day turnaround, I don't see that as a major problem in waiting, so.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Mr. Chair, just one more thing before we wind things up here. I guess Kathy didn't say it, but their contract and your actions and public health and human services and working with the legislature to get that law changed has really led to some real stability in the detox center. The revenue has really increased and stabilized, lowered our cost, and now you're making the move to stabilize the personnel because we were having some difficulties there. We'd had some minor assaults, I'll say, with shovings and things where they didn't have adequate staff on, possibly, and now you've moved to do that. So you're really making a positive move. But I think that there's been a lot of work done with detox across the river that has really stabilized that facility in the financing of it and making it a better place for the region. So I think that's really positive. So.
Yes, the North Dakota Department of Human Services actually put that in one of their successes for the legislature, is utilizing our
Yeah.
detox facility. It was listed in their briefing with the legislature, so that was a very positive thing.
Yeah. And Kathy has shared that with me, and she hadn't with you, so.
Well, Kathy, I think, you've kind of gotten some feedback here, and I think maybe the thing to do is let's see what develops with the
Sure.
Fargo VA.
Sure.
And see what that statistically does to your daily counts, and
We're fine with that. We can
Okay.
live with that and then come back as we
you're
see
welcome to come
things
back
change.
anytime once you get some
Yeah.
data to support one way or the other.
Sure, that will work.
Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, we'll take a short break here. We'll reconvene our meeting here, and let's move on to our 10:15 item, and that is a request to purchase new computer-aided mass appraisal software for assessor's office. Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning.
And we have your memo, and you can go ahead and explain
Nancy
to us.
survived the Truth and Taxation meeting?
Yeah.
And we dealt with all those issues that popped up.
Good,
so.
good.
Good. We'll just go over a little background just to refresh your memory and off the memo.
So we're looking to purchase a new computer-aided mass appraisal system, a CAMA system. We have been using the same software for quite a few years. It's all run off the AS400. And our current vendor is in the process of creating new software, but we just felt that the cost really was quite prohibitive to go with them, and it's been kind of a slow process. And we haven't always had the best working relationship with our tax vendor and them together for data flow and things like that. Also, our CAMA, our tax system vendor, we're looking at creating new CAMA software, but their process has just taken too long, and it's just been a slow process. So for the last couple of years, we have been demoing different software, and we felt that Vanguard was our best option. We've had staff locally, as far as in our own staff, we've had the auditor's office and the IT department all sit in various times looking at the software. We demoed, of course, with the City of Moorhead as well. So we have made the decision, hopefully, to move forward with Vanguard. Presently, they have 23 different entities in the state of Minnesota, which I think is a really positive thing. We aren't like creating a new step forwards with software that hasn't dealt with the complexity that the state of Minnesota has. And one of those things that is a real positive thing also is that the City of Moorhead Assessing Department has also purchased this software. They did their conversion this past summer, and it's moving quite smoothly for them, so that's a real positive thing. And so if we go this way too, we will then both have the same type of CAMA software and, of course, the same tax programs. I also did a little research just to make sure that because of our tax system is very complicated, that there's a good data flow between these two different packages. And I've heard very good things from people that have been with Vanguard for 20+ years, and it's worked very well for them. One of the big things, of course, is funding. And for the past couple of years, through the Recorder's Compliance Fund, dollars have been set aside. As far as I can figure, we have roughly $37,750 presently available. And at the May 2014 meeting of this group, we set aside another $20,000 in 2015 to be used towards it. So that brings our balance up to $57,750. Just a quick recap of what it will cost to get this on board. We are buying 3 different modules, a residential, a commercial industrial, and an ag module for 5 workstations. And because Moorhead also went with this product, we're going to be seeing a 50% savings on those modules. 1 year of service fee will have to be paid up front, and then the cost to convert from our present CAMA system. So bringing that all together to be $57,775 is our quote.
So you're $25 short.
Yeah, not bad. I think I can pull that out of mine.
Too bad.
We need to go no
I
further.
couldn't resist that one.
Included also in that is roughly 135 hours of training, conversion, and an installation that will take place. It will cost about $4.28 to convert our parcels now to this new software. There is also annual service fees that will be included, and that's just like our current vendor. We also pay those. Right now, it will be a slight savings over what we're paying to our current one, and we'll also save a little bit in, we have these user group fees that we pay to MCCC, or Computer Cooperative, so there'll be some savings there. There will be 1 year where we'll have to do a double payment in our service fees. Our contract with Xerox will end in the end of December of 2016. So the 16 year, we will have to pay double as well for that service fee. And as far as timing, if this is approved, I've met with Lori Knox, who will be our contact person with Vanguard. We did go over a few things as far as to start the conversion. Our goal is to get our data with a final conversion in April, right after our local boards of review, so we can start working on going through. I'm sure we'll have to do a card by card just to verify that the information is correct, and we'd like to do that then over the summer and fall. If all goes well and we're pleased with what we see, we probably won't have to run a dual system, meaning entering both things in both systems in 16, so we're hopeful for that.
I thought I saw some language in there that you anticipated running parallel for a while, though.
I mean, the availability will be there because we'll have our Xerox product as well through the end of 16,
Okay.
but I really hope not to have to do that. It'll
Okay.
just slow down the process, so. But it is available if we need to.
What type of service are we anticipating with Xerox if they know we're not gonna go? Say we approve this, Xerox knows we're not
yes.
going with them, are they gonna give us the services?
Yes, because we still are under contract with them through the end of 16. And there are others that opted not to go with Xerox as well. Clearwater County is one that opted, they're going with Vanguard, but we will have service from them through the end of 16.
So you're confident in not going parallel then?
I would hope not to, but it's there if we need to.
Okay. And then my other question, Nancy, is the estimated hours for training. Is that sufficient?
I hope so. I did check with the city of Moorhead because of their process. You know, a large amount of their parcels are residential in nature, so they're probably not quite as complex as some of our ag situations. But I'm hopeful that with their training, and we have gone to some of their user group meetings already just to get a feel. I think there's a lot of good resources, not only through them, but through others.
So is this a hands-on training to each, or is it a train-the-trainer type of?
It's a trainer, and it'll be to all of us, all 5 of us.
Okay.
I did check also with Tim this morning just to verify that there wouldn't be any hardware needs, and there shouldn't be any additional cost due to any hardware updates.
It's making sense to me. If we could only find that $25.
I'll try. I'll put it in.
Was it Mark got in his budget? Mark, you got it?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Very good.
Thank
That
you.
sounds like a good step forward, Nancy.
Good. I did receive some contracts already too, and I will work with Jenny or whoever to verify that the data is good for us as well, and we'll move forward with that. So thank you.
She's the boss. She's got to approve it first. All right, Brian, you handling this one? Request for payment of Agassiz Recreational Trail Bridge contract expenses. This is the one that I think gives us heartburn.
Yeah, thanks a lot for me bringing forward the one
There you
issues
go.
that bring you heartburn.
You
Thanks a
brought it
lot.
up.
And I'm looking at Commissioner Gross for that. I think he started this heartburn, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, he's been trying to clear it up.
Yeah, well, that's right. But it's created us heartburn in the process.
That 10,000 just went up.
It did. Yeah. Well, I have a memo before you, and this is something that, you know, I don't know if $10,000 was the right figure when they came before each of the commissioners last time. They were living on borrowed money at that time, so to speak, and I'm not so sure that 10,000 was the magical number. We feel this is probably the magical number to pay off the bills that are out there and to start a new slate with this Agassiz Trail. I do know that Commissioner Gross, we visited just a little bit just now, and has some concern maybe of the extra dollars that will be paid to Mr. Lundy, and was that part of this project, and or wasn't it? And it was additional work, so it was added work onto the project. But I think the highway engineer, and I don't know this for sure, the highway engineer up in in Polk County was reasonably comfortable that the work was needed and the payment would be made through the Minwaska, I think it's called. So it's a step to a pretty final step to get everything cleared up on this bridge construction that has been hanging in the wings, and attorney fees have been paid for and everything else over this. So maybe I could turn it over to Commissioner Gross to see what concerns and issues, if this does satisfy it.
Well, my concern was that we pay, I guess it's Minoa.
Minoa?
Construction, you know. I mean, are we looking at paying that 6,000? We're gonna give that to Minoa too, or we're gonna give that to Lundy?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Gross, I'm just going by the memo that Rick Sanders from Polk County had said, and to me, it sounds like that payment was going to be made to Minoa, with payment then being made to Lundy, and with the assurance that all of the subs are satisfied.
Right.
Now, was Lundy a sub of Minoa? And I don't know,
That's my concern. I'm very concerned that Lundy gets paid for his service.
Right.
You know, we've been trying to get that done for years.
Can't we require that lien waivers be signed and all of this? Isn't that going to be incorporated in it?
Yes, we can do that. I had similar concerns when I read the email as well, because, Lundy, my understanding is Lundy was a subcontractor of Minowa, and then we were just to pay Minowa, and so I didn't know why we were paying an extra amount to Lundy, but I believe that's because we asked for additional services from Lundy that were not initially anticipated. And so from the 46,515, Minowa would have an obligation to pay Lundy, and we certainly could require lien waivers so that
from the subs too,
from
couldn't
the
we?
subs, yeah, so that we are satisfied that the right people are receiving payment.
Well, that's what I'm concerned about, you know, because if they don't pay, you know, it's just, then we're right,
Well, you're exactly
we're
right.
back where we're at again.
Exactly
You know,
right.
We're trying to get this Lundy paid.
Against this, so, yeah.
You know, and and because Lundy, who hired Lundy? You know, I don't know if Minowa hired Lundy, or if our trail administrator hired Lundy, or asked him to do some work, you know.
I
Little
think that
touchy.
was very unclear, and you sat through all those board meetings, but I sat through just a few of them where we were specifically discussing this issue, and I think that was part of the problem, was that this joint powers board wasn't really operating pursuant to their granted authority, so they were asking things of Lundy that they probably didn't have
Authority.
the authority to ask them, but we're trying to put that all behind us, and this does seem to be the best way to do that if we assure that Lundy is paid.
So Commissioner Gross and Brian, on this issue, are all of those parties in agreement to the total dollar amount to pay off to solve these issues? Or do we know that for a fact, that this grand total of $46,616.24 is acceptable to all those parties, from the main contractors to the subcontractors?
Mr. Chair, I do believe they are, because Polk County has been in communication with Minowa.
So why can't we simply say that we would agree to our 1/3 payment, provided that all contractors and subcontractors agree to sign lien waivers on the project in its final state?
I think you can.
I don't see why we should not put that out there.
Well, I'm very concerned about it, and
You're very rightfully so, Frank. You know, and I think that would be our way of protecting ourselves, saying,
Right.
okay, once we get all this, you get all this money, we don't want to ever hear from you again.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a very good motion, because I think that's where Rick Sanders, the engineer from Polk, is leaning to. He said, I will be requesting from them, a letter stating all their suppliers and subcontractors have been paid along with a copy of their IC-134. And that's when Polk County then would issue the check. We're going to issue a check to Polk County is the way it's.
But I didn't hear the word lien waiver in there.
I know, I agree with you. I agree.
So I think that's our true guarantee.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent motion.
Well, I threw that out there, so we want to.
Well, I'm gonna make that motion, with that lien guarantee.
Okay, we have a motion?
I'll second it. I just, on your memo, Brian, it says 46,616, and on the one on the back page from Rich Sanders, it says 46,515.
515.
Just,
Yeah.
probably should have the figures match up.
I stand corrected. It should be 515 instead of, I'm sure.
Well, we almost didn't approve Nancy for $25, so this is 100 on this, so I'm
Well,
sure it's right. So.
Yeah, I'm sure Vicki typed it up, but she typed it with me giving her the figures, so.
Oh, sure. Now
I'm
you
sure it's my mistake.
pass the buck.
No, it's my mistake.
I thought I was seeing a pass the buck.
No, I'm defending her.
We just want to make sure we approve the right figure.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, right? On the issue, and then to the correct dollar amount, whatever it is. But that we would require lien waivers from
15,505.
all contractors and subcontractors.
Very good.
Very good, all right? Any further discussion? And then as far as I'm concerned, once Jenny has received all of those, then we would be freed up to pay our portion.
That's right.
Where does our portion come from?
That was our next question. Well, wait, we gotta, are we gonna, do you want to have an answer to that before we vote on that?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I still want to.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Because then we do have to figure out where the money's coming from. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Now we need to come up with 15,000 and some odd dollars.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, I thought we would pay it out of unanticipated.
Okay.
And the reason being there, we do have some dollars left over. It may not reach the 15, but it's going to be close, because if you remember...
For 2014.
For 2014, that's correct. The obligation that you did...
was 10, wasn't it? Didn't we have an obligation of 10? Didn't we agree to pay 10 earlier?
No, they came to us requesting that, and your discussion was, and I remember Commissioner Everett saying that, well, if we have an obligation out there, but the board felt that they wanted this thing cleared up before they, but the unanticipated account, you did obligate about $20,000 of it out of the 25 to extension, but extension hasn't used that much. That's a matching fee for that part-time position. So we're going to have probably $12,000 somewhere in there. So it's going to be very close to meeting that need. So if we take it out of the unanticipated, it'll be close. So.
And the other 3,000 we just take out of the administrator's budget.
Absolutely. Well, I thought you meant pay. Budget's okay. I thought you just
said
pay.
budget. I was being nice to you. Okay. All right, well, we'll figure out where we can get that from,
Yeah.
so, all right.
We'll charge it to the unanticipated account and it'll come out of reserves, so.
All right, so that covers that, so then we can move on then to membership in the correctional facility. Now, this is, Brian, I was looking at this name here that we've called this, and then you have a correctional facility design and operations. I wonder if we should just call that correctional design, construction, and operations. I think we should put the word...
Correctional facility design, construction design?
Yeah, design, construction, and operations.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Let's just get it all right in there, and that's because that's what we ultimately want to do, so.
Great. Okay.
So you want to talk about this?
I certainly can, Mr. Chair. We've had several discussions reference the membership and pushing forward. I have been in contact with your chair, Commissioner Campbell, and also Commissioner Wayland has weighed in on this somewhat because they are on the financial committee that we put together to look at this. And now we feel it's time, if we're going to push forward with the finances, we better have some design in place and capacity and the operations of it and different things. So we were, in our discussion, I know your chair felt that it was time to move forward with this expanded committee. And if you'll see, there's new entities that are being brought into this committee than the one that was on there back in 2008 and 9. And I specifically, you're including social services. And the reason why we're recommending that is mental health is a real big issue. And we know Commissioner Everett was very concerned about that, and we feel we need to have social services weigh in on that issue. We felt that this, how we fund this and how it's affecting the rural population, so we brought in, we're offering a township officer, and Gary Bergen, the chair of the Township Association, has agreed to serve on that. We also felt that a citizen at large, and I think we've kind of narrowed it to the Moorhead Business Association, would be good to be represented on this committee as well. And then, you know, we had some duplication here with the sheriff's departments and the police departments, of having both the sheriff and the chief, and then also their deputy chief and the chief deputy on it. So we've tried to narrow that down, because even as is, it's 13 members on that committee. And then there's also several other staff members that we need to call on at times. And, you know, Vicki is certainly going to be in those meetings to take minutes of it. Lori, we need to stay in contact with her in the financial aspect of it. Dave Overbo, from an engineering standpoint, I'd like to keep him involved when we're doing the soil borrowings and different things, is going to be very positive, but not to be on. Joe Olson, our maintenance staff, really needs to be involved in this, from design and cleaning, and then Tim Magnuson, there may be zoning issues, and we have to work through the city, and he has to be involved. So I guess I felt that under my name, if we could, you know, probably include the county administrator and staff, that would be helpful, that we can bring them in when we need them. And of course, you can do that anytime anyway, but just so that we're clear on who we're being inclusive of here.
Yeah, because depending on the agenda items that are going forward at the time, there might be something where it's going to be something important for Lori to sit on, and then there may be some agendas that doesn't pertain to Lori.
Not needed. That's right.
You know, but so that would make sense.
Yeah. So right now we have are suggesting Commissioner Campbell, Commissioner Wayland, District Judge Michelle Lawson, Sheriff Bill Berquist, County Attorney Brian Melton, Jail Administrator Julie Savat, Assistant Jail Administrator Justin Roberts, Moorhead City Council. The mayor has designated Mike Hewlett, Councilman Mike Hewlett, Moorhead Chief of Police Dave Ebinger, myself, Township Officer Gary Bergen, Social Services Pat Boyer. Rhonda feels that Pat has stepped up and wants to serve on this committee, so Rhonda would serve as the alternate, but Pat Boyer would be on this committee. And the citizen at large, we feel we've narrowed it to the Moorhead Business Association. I have been and Commissioner Campbell, we've been in contact with Les Steenerson, who's president of the Moorhead Business Association, and they will present a name to us.
Should be coming very shortly.
Very shortly. I thought I'd have it.
I know in the original one that we had, it was actually Les's dad was was on the committee as a member at large for citizens at
Really?
large. Yeah.
That would be.
Are we suggesting then that the additional ones from your staff be non-voting members? Is that what?
They would be just staff, and we would utilize them as
needed.
Yes, because otherwise, I mean, 13 is a plenty big committee the way it is, and we tried to narrow it and tried to keep everybody involved, and we know we're leaving people out too that will.
And there's certainly times where, depending on the issues that's going to be discussed, where Berquist may want to have his chief deputy there, and the same with the Chief Ebinger. There may be times when he's going to want to have his, that's their call.
And that's their call, yeah.
And we'll be flexible there.
Yeah. And Mr. Chair, just for the other board's sake, I know you and I discussed that then once this committee is established, that we would try to get them together as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I kind of, when we did meet and talked about this, we're kind of looking at a fairly aggressive schedule on it, and the hope is to try to meet every 3 weeks, provided we have new things to talk about. But the research on this needs to start to go fast and furious to make it happen. So,
Mr. Chair, are you thinking of using any of the old study to start with, or is it going to be all fresh start?
Yeah, well, we're gonna pull we're going to pull some of the final findings, you know. But as we talked today, and as you talked to Julie and the sheriff today, the final findings and what we would have built to, if you talk to them now, we would have been disappointed, you know, just based on those numbers. So we need to get down to, go back to the discussion about what, like I talked to the group when we met a week or two ago. I said, we need to understand what we're going to need now, what we're going to need in 20 years, and what we're going to need in 40 years. And be able to try to, you know, going out 40 is a little bit difficult, but you have to try to plan for what that can happen, because we don't want to be building another one or having the citizens say, boy, you guys really screwed up when you had an opportunity to do it right. So, you know, so those are some of the things we're looking at. And at some point in time, we are going to have to bring back in another planner, whether it be an architect or what. That will, I think over the next 4 to 6 months, hopefully we can get a lot done with this group right here. Okay? Is that it?
That's it. Yep.
So I think what we'd like to do is we'd like to get the board's blessing on this group. And I have to tell you, having been on the first one, things do develop, and sometimes these issues come up that require these things to be broadened or adjusted. So,
Mr. Chairman, I would love to move that we appoint this committee and that they begin their work as needed, and I leave it to the rest of you to complete it.
okay. All right, very good. We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. The Correctional Facility Design, Constructions, and Operations Committee has been formed.
And one more request on that, Mr. Chair. There would be some, I think, that would, well, of course, the commissioners too, but that this be a committee that would be approved for per diem and mileage.
I would think that'd be appropriate.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that's an important step in moving forward on this project. So.
All right. So Brian, we kind of know the tasks and what we're going to do to have the first meeting called, right?
You betcha.
Okay.
Yeah. I know a person that can arrange meetings quite effectively.
Good at it. All right. 2015 levy approval, approved budget, and it's you two again. And we got Lori here.
Well, good morning again, Mr. Chair. And
good morning, Mr. Burke.
We've been before you a lot with the proposed 2015 budget. You've made a lot of suggestions, and I think we've moved in a positive direction. And we're before you today to ask for a resolution for the levy for 2015. Now, one thing that has been added to the budget since our last communication, and that was the Veterans Court was before you and asked for $10,000, and that has been included in the budget. So we, I think, increased the
County attorneys.
Yeah, the county attorney's budget and drew the revenue from reserves to make that.
So it was offset.
That's right, so it
Yeah,
was
so
offset.
if you notice on the budget to be approved, we have a $10,000 deficit there, so.
Laurie, should not the title be different on the budget sheet, the printout? It says 214.
Yes, it should.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
So,
yes, right.
So, Mr. Chair, we're asking for the approval of resolution of that would approve a levy of $26,155,639 to support our 2015 budget of, I didn't have that.
Second
on the
page.
Second page.
69,212,739.
So Brian, how much did this 26,155,639 change from September when we did our preliminary? Lori, you're
Well, it increased.
giggling.
I think I'm gonna go with 0.
Well, yeah, the levy, the budget increased $10,000 for the Veterans Court, and
I think the
but the
correct
levy-
answer was 0.
yeah, that's right, that's correct.
I just kind of making a subtle point there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we get the preliminary levy on and we're done.
Well, we did move some numbers around, but the
Yeah.
bottom line is still, the levy is still the same.
We did, if you remember it, and that's why I went into the explanation on the budget just a little bit, because you saw just a huge change in the juvenile detention budget. You saw this morning, detox budget is going to change, but it isn't going to affect the levy amount, because we've really looked for revenue before we've increased any expenses on this, and I think that's what you would want us to do. So, yeah, it hasn't gone down any, but if I remember right, the departments were, you held the departments to a pretty close to the vest when you went through the budgets all summer long, so.
I'll make the motion to approve the 2015 levy.
I will second that motion.
Okay. And that resulted in a 3 point what?
3.99.
Yep, 3.99 with a 2 point, I gotta stop and think, 49. Was it 2.49?
Net after gross.
Yeah,
Or after new construction.
New construction.
All right, very good. All right, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Our levy for 2015 is adopted.
And then, Mr. Chair, we'd like a motion for the approval of the 2015 budget for Clay County as well.
All right,
That's part of this budget.
Oh,
Is it part of the resolution?
it's part of the resolution.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yes.
We get things done in one here.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Jim.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Okay, we're down to our committee reports. Grant, or let's see, Frank, do you want to start?
Sure. Thursday was the Soil and Water Conservation District meeting. We had an open house at 3 o'clock. Where Wayne was present along with Jenny and myself, and Senator Eakin and Representative Ben Lean were there, and Kevin Kassenberg gave a very good presentation on what the watershed's all about. There's about an hour-and-a-half presentation, and he really went through, he gave a good description of what they do and what they do for the county, and it was very good. I think they, I know last week we talked about this one watershed, one plan, and I think they're going to be actively pursuing that. Bruce Albright was there also, and he's in full support of that. And I think the watershed, soil and water conservation district, are going to be pursuing that. Next thing, Friday, I was at Partnership for Health. We had our first meeting at Barnesville, where we discussed the division of duties and gave out reports and also all the grant requests that they've got in already. So it was a good starting off a meeting for the Partnership for Health. So.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
I had one comment. Grant had asked about the shack appointment, and we did talk to Kathy, and she said that that's something that was forgotten. It wasn't talked about, so it needs to be added to the next agenda to make sure that you appoint a shack person.
Yeah, all right. Very good.
Because there will be one for 4 counties now rather than one for 2 counties. So,
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
more than likely Doug Hips probably would be that, but since he's the president's track, I don't know.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On Wednesday, December 10th, for adult mental health, I attended the Rethink Mental Health Summit at the MCOM Center. And as I was not able to be there for the entire meeting due to our Wednesday board meeting, and I had 2 different other obligations I had to, I was not able to be there for the entire day. But some of the highlights went over the different kinds of care available and how the laws differ between Minnesota and North Dakota as to what is permitted. The rules and regulations that apply in Minnesota for a client are more restrictive than those in North Dakota. And just because one is diagnosed with a mental issue, example, bipolar, that does in no way mean the concerns are the same for each client or each situation. Great variances can and do occur. Some of the presenters at this summit were FM Ambulance, Sanford, Assistant Attorney General from the state of Minnesota, Coalition for the Homeless, Lakes and Prairies, and Minnesota Department of Human Services. On Thursday, December 11th, I attended what Frank had mentioned regarding the Clay County Soil and Water Conservation District, and he covered it very well. On Saturday, December 12th, Lake Agassiz Regional Library for the Northern Lights Library Network full board meeting. General business, a donation of $25,000 to Lake Agassiz Regional Library and Northwest Regional Library to purchase server and hardware and accessories. We discussed the second annual library luncheon with legislators to be held in February of 2015 at Moore State, and there were a report on libraries and the issues they have from those who are president of the 23 counties in the Northern Lights Library Network.
Thank you. Grant.
Let's see, I was at a meeting with Greater Fargo-Moore and EDC on the Valley Prosperity Partnership, giving us information on that last week. Had a meeting, I'm on a committee for MRCC on transportation issues, and that's going to be, of course, main priority for MRCC this year, trying to build the transportation funding for Greater Minnesota. And so we're making contact with key legislators that are going to be responsible for that. I think the governor's already indicated that's a priority for him for this next session. Had a meeting with Beyond the Yellow Ribbon group, and Tom and Jennifer were there and gave a update on the Veterans Gap Fund that he spoke to us about probably a year or so ago, and that's working as it should. And I think Jennifer said just Clay County veterans, they've helped 8 with this Gap Fund just this fall alone. So that's going well, and we also had an update from Tom on the Veterans Court. Had a meeting with Area Agency on Aging, the Dancing Sky, just general business there. So that was it for me.
All right, thank you. Done.
Let me say, last Wednesday, we had a nominating committee meeting for the Basin Commission. I think I'd mentioned before we needed to find new leadership in some cases because of some elections that changed composition of the board for us. But that is completed now, and looking forward to the annual meeting in Winnipeg in January. Hopefully some of you can attend that 21st and 22nd, I think, of January. Attended on Thursday the land management meeting. It was pretty routine. It was a short meeting. Included, of course, the update on on purchases, excuse me, land transactions and so on, and also the update on the status of entry, the rights of entry for properties that they're trying to do some studies on. I attended on Friday evening the farewell party and the appreciation party for Kurt Nelson, the longtime member of the Red River Watershed, or Buffalo Red Watershed, and that was at the Galaxy in Barnesville, and good attendance. And one interesting thing I'd thought about this week and confirmed that night, we have a very excellent group of viewers in the Buffalo Red Watershed District. It includes Lauren Peterson, who's Colin Peterson's father, and it includes Arvid Thompson and also Eddie Bernardson. And I did some calculating. They talked about this down at the conference about the certified viewers that there's some professional certified viewers now that in other parts of the state, and they're paid big money for their work, and they work full time at it and so on. And talked about the need for certification. And my response to that group was that You know, you don't really need certified viewers, you just need viewers who are experienced and wise. And I did some calculating here. The 3 viewers that we still use in Buffalo Red average 88 years of age. And they do very well for us, and they get paid hardly anything. And they don't care if people get angry with them at all for their actions. They do a very good job for us. But I thought that was kind of interesting thing that these 3 wise, experienced viewers still do major work for us. That's all.
All right. Well, since last Wednesday, just had 2 meetings. One was the Diversion Authority Public Outreach meeting. It was held on Wednesday, and it was pretty much a typical meeting where they give us updates on right of entry issues, what they're dealing with for the project. We got a business leaders flood task force update. And then we had members of the Home Builders Association and the Realtors Association have been starting to come to all those meetings, and they have a very strong interest in this project and are really going to be supporting it more so now. And they have some real concerns about the major flood insurance issues that are going to be taking place primarily on the North Dakota side. There's going to be some issues on the Minnesota side, but not nearly as significant as what Fargo has. So, then on the Diversion Authority meeting itself on Thursday, again, it was pretty much a normal meeting. We did get a report on this public-private partnership as another option out there, where the Corps is looking at where a private entity would actually go out there and build it and include profits in there, and then the authority would pay them back based on sales tax collections over time. Another thing, and I think if you happen to see the news in today's paper, another option were for Cass County residents is they're going to be looking at having a vote to have a special assessment put against their property that would be used as collateral for funding of the North Dakota share of the diversion project. And I think if you get an opportunity to read the article in today's Fargo Forum, they do a fairly good job of breaking that down, how that special assessment system works. And it's not intended to raise additional revenues. It's intended to be, like Rocky Schneider described it as somebody co-signing a loan to get a better rate. So the full intentions are that on the $450 million that this would cover, the $700,000 that is expected to be raised in sales tax will fully cover the cost of that bond, and there wouldn't be a need to actually implement the special assessment. That special assessment process does require a vote by all parties, and that also talks about that. It's weighted. It's a weighted vote based on how much your land is involved and its worth, and it's quite a scenario. I don't want to try to explain it all here, but they did a nice job in the Fargo Forum today breaking that down. I encourage you to read it.
Mr. Chair, what's the payback if these bonds are sold? 20 years? It wasn't in the paper.
The number that I saw, one of the numbers that I've seen, and of course it isn't finally one of the numbers I've seen is they've spread it out over 30 years. Now there's nothing that's been finalized on that yet. And of course, if this other, you listen to the North Dakota people, and they've been talking about as a pilot program with the federal government. If that goes through, then the likelihood of this special assessment might not even need to be, because basically what would happen under that one is is private contractors would build the entire diversion, and the Corps of Engineers would do the main tieback levees and the main structure on the Red River. And that would be their responsibility, so. But all that is kind of new talk, and that'll go on for quite some time. I'm just seeing if there's anything else here. There's a lot of internal work that still's going on with local projects, trying to help get them ready to meet the 100-year expectation. So that's really all that I have. So Brian, you can go on you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Two meetings that I attended that you two have spoke about very well is the Land Management and the Diversion Authority meeting. I don't need to say any more about that. I think you hit it on the nose, Chairman Campbell, that these are discussion points that will be refined, and the PPP, the personal public-private partnership, will need to be developed much more extensively. One thing you'd asked about a while back was the follow-up on an insurance issue with the joint powers, referenced the food distribution, the joint powers that you approved a short while back. I have been in contact with Adam Altenberg with the MetroCog, and his response is that we just heard back from Dawson Insurance. From my understanding, I was told that any work completed by MetroCog, including the joint powers agreement for the Cass Clay Food System Advisory Committee, is covered under our limited liability bond under the purpose of the powers of the joint powers agreement for the Food System Advisory Commission, is an independent entity separate from its members. And then I asked about is there any chance that the joint powers could be listed in the insurance coverage, and he said we are actually looking to renew our coverage in the next month. Would you be comfortable if we were to look into that option at that time? So that is being addressed, and we'll be assured that that for insurance purposes that's covered under the joint powers agreement through MetroCog. So that was a follow-up on that, and that was about a month ago. I think you asked about that. Several meetings, personnel-related issues, and just keep, that's constant, I guess, with us. I did attend the Fargo-Moorhead EDC Commission, and the Valley Prosperity Partnership had a luncheon here last week, and it was in reference to the partnership. Jim Garten just expanded on that a little bit this morning, but we heard reports from 3 different working groups: workforce, research, and then water, because all of them are very important issues to the Valley, and they're doing work on individual programs in regards to the Valley Prosperity Partnership and the Fargo-Moorhead Economic Development Commission. So that's going along fairly well, as he indicated, and I think Commissioner Everett commented on it too, that he was impressed with what's been going on there. Had a meeting, and we'll discuss that this morning at our highway tracking meeting with Dave and some people from HURT out there at Holly Reference Highway Shops. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Attended a meeting with over at Sanford Health in regards to the homelessness and the rise in the number of individuals that the Churches United and that the churches themselves are hosting this winter. It's really increased, and they're looking for ideas of how to address this. I think it was a good meeting, just an awareness meeting, so to speak. Been busy setting up and trying to coordinate a meeting with the farmers and some legislatures. We talked about that, and land valuations looking forward. Unfortunately, it'll only involve a couple of the commissioners because of open meeting laws and different things, so we'll be looking at that fairly soon. And the other thing that probably we need to start talking a little more about, we've mentioned it several times, but we've talked about a land management department versus having so many different departments that we deal with. And hopefully this next year we can form a committee to start looking at how we could develop a land management office within county government. The recorder's office, the assessor's office, functions of the auditor's office, GIS, planning and zoning. It just seems like they are well coordinated, but it just seems like it would be better if they were within one group. And I keep saying we won't see that probably migrate to that in the time I'm here, but possibly we could put some things in motion and have kind of a plan to migrate there when people retire and things like that. I think it would be wise to start talking about that, so you'll hear more about it later on. So, Mr. Chair, that's about it.
Thank you, Brian.
No.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn.